Today, I want to speak to you heart to heart about a decision I made in my later years. A decision I thought was right at the time, but one I've come to deeply regret. You see, at 82, I've learned that some choices, once made, are harder to undo than we imagine, and moving into a nursing home was one of them. I know many of you may be considering this for yourself or perhaps for a loved one. Maybe you believe it will provide safety, comfort, or convenience. That's what I thought too. But the truth turned out to be very different from what I expected. Today, I'm going to share with you 6 hard truths about life in a nursing home. Truths I wish someone had told me before I took that step. My hope is that by sharing my experience, you'll feel better prepared to make the decision that's truly best for you. So please, settle in with a warm cup of tea or coffee, and let's reflect together on this important topic. Part 1. The illusion of comfort versus the reality of lost independence. When I first began considering a move into a nursing home, the idea seemed to make sense. My family spoke gently, with care in their voices, encouraging me to think about my well-being. They pointed out how much easier life would be. No more worrying about grocery shopping or cooking meals, no more climbing stairs or maintaining the house. I imagined warm meals served to me, friendly faces checking in, and help always just a call button away. In those moments, it felt like I was making a wise and practical choice, one that would give me peace of mind in my later years. But what no one prepared me for, what I wish someone had told me, is how quickly that comfort would come at the cost of something far more precious, my independence. Before the move, my days were mine. I decided when to wake up. Some mornings I rose early, eager to see the sunrise and hear the birds. Other mornings I lingered in bed, enjoying the quiet. I chose what I wanted to eat. Maybe I'd make oatmeal with fresh fruit, or maybe I'd scramble some eggs and toast a slice of bread just the way I liked it. If I felt like stepping outside, I did. A walk to the mailbox, a stroll through the garden, or just a moment to breathe in the fresh air. It was always up to me. Once I entered the nursing home, I realized those choices weren't mine anymore. The day ran on someone else's schedule. Breakfast came at a set time, whether I felt hungry or not. Lights out was expected at a certain hour, whether I was ready for sleep or still lost in a good book. Simple acts like deciding when to shower, what to wear, or when to take a walk often required asking permission or waiting until someone was available to help. I remember waking up on my first morning there, reaching for the book I had been reading at home, but the room felt unfamiliar. My chair wasn't there. My pictures, my small treasures, the comforts I had surrounded myself with, they were gone, replaced by sterile walls and furniture chosen by someone else. The hardest truth I've learned is this: when you give up your independence, getting it back is far more difficult than you'd ever imagine. You adjust because you must. You stop questioning the schedule. You stop asking for small freedoms. And in doing so, bit by bit, you lose yourself. So before you choose comfort over freedom, ask yourself, are you ready for what that trade truly means? Because once it's gone, you'll miss it more than you can imagine. Part 2. The silent pain of being forgotten. When I first moved into the nursing home, I held tight to one comforting thought, that my family would still be my anchor. I remember the warm embraces of my daughter during her visits, the laughter of my grandchildren echoing through my room, and the feeling that I was still deeply connected to the world I'd left behind. In those early days, the visits came regularly. My daughter would bring me my favorite tea, and my grandchildren would tell me stories from school, filling my heart with joy. I clung to those moments like lifelines, believing that distance would not change our closeness. But as time passed, life outside went on. My daughter's visits became less frequent, from weekly to monthly, then to holidays only. My grandchildren grew busier with their own lives, as they should, and the calls became shorter and less often. I told myself not to take it to heart. I reminded myself that they loved me, that their lives were full of responsibilities. But still, the quiet began to settle in, filling the spaces where their voices used to be. I started to notice the same pattern in those around me. The common room was filled with hopeful eyes watching the entrance, waiting for a familiar face to appear. Some waited in silence, others spoke often of visitors who would surely come, even as the days slipped by without a knock on the door. Hope, I learned, is both beautiful and heartbreaking. It wasn't that our family stopped caring. They simply became busy, swept up in the daily rush of their own lives. And because we were no longer part of their everyday world, it became easier for them to believe we were fine, that we didn't need them quite so much. But the truth is, we needed them more than ever. There were evenings when I'd pick up the phone thinking to call my son, only to set it down again. I didn't want to seem needy. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting, hoping. And so I sat quietly, listening to the soft hum of the night, feeling the ache of being forgotten. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, please pause and ask yourself, are you ready for the loneliness that can come, even from those who love you dearly? Because no matter how strong the bonds, once you are out of sight, it is all too easy to become out of mind. Part 3. The emptiness left by lost purpose. Before I moved into the nursing home, I never realized how much the small routines of daily life gave my world meaning. My mornings began with purpose. I'd brew my coffee, savoring the familiar smell filling the kitchen. I'd water my plants, tend to the little garden I'd worked so hard to cultivate, or sit quietly on the porch, watching the world wake up around me. Even the simplest tasks, sweeping the floor, folding the laundry, planning my meals, gave my days structure, made me feel needed, made me feel alive. When I decided to move, I thought I'd be trading chores for rest, responsibilities for relaxation. And at first, that's exactly how it felt. No more worrying about cooking, cleaning, or repairs. Meals appeared on schedule. My bed was made, my room tidied by kind staff. I thought I had earned this break. But soon, I discovered that what I called rest was becoming something else. The hours began to stretch endlessly, one day blending into the next. My hands, once busy with small tasks, now sat idle in my lap. I watched the world from a chair instead of engaging with it. And with that stillness came a heavy feeling I hadn't expected. a deep sense of purposelessness. There was a gentleman in the home, George, who became my friend. A carpenter by trade, George had spent his life building things, fixing what was broken, shaping wood into beautiful pieces. But here, there were no tools, no projects. I saw the light in his eyes dim as his capable hands fell still. "I don't know who I am without something to do," he confided to me one quiet afternoon. And I understood him perfectly. Purpose doesn't have to come from grand achievements. Often it's found in the small, ordinary things that make us feel useful, make us feel like ourselves. When those are gone, we're left with time, too much of it, and no clear way to fill it. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning today? And how will you hold on to that when your daily tasks, your little joys, are no longer yours to claim? Because purpose, once lost, can be one of the hardest things to find again. Part 4. How ease accelerates decline. Before I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was doing fairly well for someone in their 80s. My body wasn't what it once was, of course, but I could still manage the essentials. I prepared my meals, tended my little garden, swept my porch, and moved through my home with a sense of pride. Every small task, from watering my plants to climbing the few steps to my front door, kept me active without my even realizing it. I didn't think of these chores as exercise, but looking back, they were my lifeline. When I decided to move, the promise of ease was tempting. My family reassured me that I had earned a rest. Meals delivered to my table, housekeeping done for me, help always just a button away. It all sounded so comforting, so safe. And in those first weeks, I welcomed the relief. It felt good not to have to worry about groceries or cleaning. It felt good to know someone was there if I needed anything. But over time, I began to see the price of all that comfort. With fewer reasons to move, I simply moved less. I stopped standing at the stove, stopped bending to pick things up, stopped taking those small trips around my home. My body, which had stayed strong through small daily efforts, started to weaken. It was so gradual that I didn't notice at first, but soon rising from a chair felt harder. My legs didn't carry me as easily, my balance felt less sure. I saw the same in others. Friends who had arrived walking independently soon relied on walkers, then wheelchairs. My neighbor Alice, once so determined to stay active, sighed one day and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I've aged a decade in a few months." Her words echoed my own thoughts. We often think of help as kindness, and it is. But too much ease can steal the strength we need to stay independent. The body needs to move. When we stop using it, we start losing it. If you're considering a move, ask yourself, will you have the will to keep your body strong when the world around you makes it so easy to stop trying? Because once you let that strength slip away, reclaiming it is harder than you might imagine. Part 5. Privacy and Dignity. The Hidden Cost. When I lived in my own home, privacy was something I didn't think twice about. It was simply there, like the walls around me or the roof over my head. I could close a door, take a deep breath, and know that the space was mine. I could choose when to rest, when to bathe, when to sit quietly with my thoughts. No one entered my space unless I invited them in. My home was my sanctuary, a place where I felt safe, in control, and dignified. But when I moved into the nursing home, that privacy became something I had to let go of, piece by piece, moment by moment. From the first day, I realized that my room wasn't truly mine. Staff members came in regularly, often without waiting for an answer after a quick knock. They meant no harm, of course. They were doing their jobs, checking in, keeping me safe. But with each uninvited entry, I felt a little more exposed, a little less like myself. Even the most basic and personal routines became shared experiences. Dressing, bathing, using the bathroom. Tasks I had done privately my entire life often required assistance. I told myself to be grateful for the help, and I was. The staff were kind, respectful, and careful, but still, it was hard to adjust. It was hard to accept that I couldn't choose when or how these personal moments unfolded. And then there was the matter of sharing a room. I was fortunate to have a kind roommate, someone quiet and respectful, but not everyone was so lucky. I saw neighbors paired with those whose habits clashed. Loud at night, messy, confused, or disruptive. It made rest difficult, and even the small attempt to create a sense of home in that space felt impossible. The hardest part is that when you lose privacy, you also begin to lose your sense of dignity. When your choices are limited, when you're treated more like a patient on a schedule than a person with preferences, it changes how you feel about yourself. And that is a loss that runs deep. If you're considering this step, ask yourself, how much does privacy matter to you? Because once it's gone, you may find it's one of the things you miss most of all.
Part 6. The unexpected challenge of leaving. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was just for a little while, a temporary solution, a trial to see how it felt. I believed that if it didn't suit me, I could always return home. After all, home would still be there, waiting for me. That thought brought me comfort and made the transition easier. But what I didn't realize was how hard it would be to leave once I had settled in. At first, everything seemed simple. My house sat quietly, just as I left it. But over time, maintaining it from a distance became harder. My children, with the best intentions, began making decisions, selling off items they thought I no longer needed, suggesting we rent out the house, or talking about how it was too much for me to manage on my own anymore. And I understood. They wanted what was best, what was safe. But slowly, the idea of returning home started to feel more like a dream than a plan. Then there was the change in me. In the nursing home, I no longer had to cook, clean, or manage daily tasks. At first, that felt like a relief. But as the months passed, I noticed how my strength faded. I wasn't as steady on my feet. I wasn't as confident in my ability to take care of myself. The independence I once took for granted felt out of reach. And of course, there were financial considerations. The cost of care adds up quickly. Savings that could have supported a return home started to dwindle. I met others in the same position, people who thought they were making a temporary move, only to find themselves unable to leave, not because they didn't want to, but because the barriers had grown too high. The hardest part was realizing that leaving wasn't simply a matter of packing a bag. The longer you stay, the harder it is to go back. The home you knew, the life you lived, they change while you're away, and so do you. So before you decide on this path, ask yourself honestly, if you move in, will you truly be able to leave if it doesn't feel right? Because the door out may not be as easy to open as you hope, and that's a reality I wished I'd understood from the start.
As I look back on my journey, I share this story not with bitterness, but with hope. Hope that my experience can help you or someone you love make the best choice for the future. Moving into a nursing home felt right at first. I thought it would bring safety, comfort, and peace of mind. But what I hadn't realized was how much I would be giving up: my independence, my privacy, my sense of purpose, and the small freedoms that made each day meaningful. Nursing homes can provide important care for those who truly need it. But before you make that move, I encourage you to think carefully. Are there other options that can help you stay in your home and keep your freedom a little longer? Could in-home support or community services give you the help you need without giving up what makes life feel like yours? Your choices matter. Your routines, your independence, and your dignity are worth protecting. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to SeniorWiseJourney. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs, inspires, and uplifts. And don't forget to turn on the bell for future videos. Thank you for watching.